Nadie tiene un amor mayor que este, que uno dé su vida por sus amigos. Juan 15, 12 y 13.
Diciendo, Padre, si es tu voluntad, aparte de mí esta copa, pero no se haga mi voluntad, sino la tuya. Lucas 22, 42.
Padre, que siempre sea santificado tu nombre, que tu reino venga pronto. Danos cada día el alimento que necesitamos y perdona nuestros pecados, así como perdonamos a los que pecan contra nosotros. Y no permitas que cedamos ante la tentación. Lucas 11, del 2 al 4.
Tu hija está muerta, ya no tiene sentido molestar al maestro. Jesús oyó lo que decían y le dijo a Jairo, no tengas miedo, solo ten fe. Marcos 5, 35, 36.
Y terminó Dios en el día séptimo la obra que hizo, y reposó el día séptimo de toda la obra que hizo. Génesis 2, 2.
I got the privilege to go to a lot of people's houses and see them in their homes and just sit and be with people for hours at a time. And I think just the relational, communal living, I think that really impacted me. I think that's something that I really appreciate and something that I want to continue to have in my life going forward.
I say no. What does I say? Oh, because I'm double three.
I've seen my quiet time grow over the course of this week. That it's very important that I spend quiet time in the scripture and with God, talking and praying.
I'd say the people, especially in the community, they are all really welcoming. It's not like necessarily when I'm home, they're not all that welcoming, so that's the biggest change. Come here with an open heart.
connected a lot with the kids. They're very touchy and sweet. You don't always need to like talk to someone to get to know them.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
Hello, everyone. For those that don't know me, I'm Mark. I'm usually back there in the booth looking really like I'm doing something, but I am. Sarah's taking over today with my son, Will, while I'm up here, so thank you. So this is our youth group. A lot of kids from youth group. Also, Katie's parents were able to come. Caleb, who I don't think is here today, he was also able to come, which was really awesome. Him and I co-led on the group. But yeah, we were there for a week. And first of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody for your prayers and your donations that made this trip possible. We really appreciate it. And we were really able to see God work throughout every one of these people's lives, as well as my own. And most importantly, the lives of everybody in the Dominican Republic. And so how it worked was everyone got assigned to a different team, a different mission site. There was elementary, there was special education, there was volleyball, baseball, among others. I was on the media team. I produced the video that we just saw. So that's going to live on the SI website. We're also going to post it on YouTube here on NHCC. And so what was really cool for me is I got to go to all 14 of the other sites. And so just being able to go to all 14 of the sites, I really felt myself enriched in the community at the Dominican Republic. So it was really cool to be able to not just be on base or only going to my site for an hour, 3 hours coming back, but I was really able to see how everybody lived there. And it was just really an eye-opening experience for me. It was actually my first missions trip, and then the first mission trip I was also leading this awesome group on, and they were a great group. We had a really, really good time. Fortunately, I got a little sick at the end, so thank you to Christine and everyone else for kind of taking over and leading everybody on the walk and every activity that we did, but I'm feeling all better now, and I just want to say that it was just such an awesome opportunity. I really felt God moving throughout my life and throughout everyone else's lives. So thank you.
All right, I'll go next. I'll probably talk the longest. So going down to the DR, we're actually supposed to go, the four of us, with my son included, in 2020. So this was a trip that was canceled, and we were finally able to do it together. And I'm really grateful for that opportunity because I really thought, I'm just going down here for my daughter. I just wanted to be able to support her and for her to see and for her to learn. And I didn't really realize how much God would move through me during this trip. Because first of all, I thought, hey, I'm a special education teacher. I'm definitely going to be at the special education site. And I was not. And then I was placed at the preschool site. And I was like, great, I love preschool kids. This is going to be fabulous. There weren't any well, there was a couple. But they didn't have preschool that week. It was their week off. So we didn't get to do that. So we were, mostly we painted a mural. And I am not an artist. So I'm like, okay, but I'll do something. So, we all had an opportunity to contribute to that mural. It was fabulous. And then, I'm a person who's busy all the time. Like, every waking moment, I have to be doing something because I do a lot and here and responsible for a lot. And in the DR, we did a little bit. We woke up every morning and we had a devotional quiet time, which in the DR was not meaningful, but coming home is now meaningful because I'm bringing that habit back here to spend that time with God. And we had a little bit of time in the morning. A couple of days we did have kids who were in the pool that you saw. That was our site. And that was great because, I made a connection with some of the kids, even though we couldn't speak to each other. And that was a lot of fun and meaningful. But then we had downtime. It was an hour and a half for lunch. And just nothing to do. Not, just hang out and reflect and relax, which they said was going to be hard for us Americans, and for me it was very hard. And I used some of that time just to reflect on why am I in the DR? What is my purpose? What is going to happen here? And I had the opportunity to share some of my gifts there, and I really felt like I was put in that place by God for the opportunity to give to that particular site some things that they needed. And I'm getting goosebumps because that says to me that's God moving through me, and that was the right thing to do. But the thing that really affected me the most, and I didn't realize, and I knew in the moment that there were things happening and it was great, but I didn't realize until I got home how meaningful it was, and that was the worship night on Thursday night. They set up the chapel to have different activities, and I'm like, first of all, I can't get on the floor because I'm not getting up. So I wasn't going to do that part. They had a foot washing station. I'm like, well, I don't really know the girls well enough to do that. And they said men and women should, boys and girls should not wash each other. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not doing it with my husband. So I'm like, all right, well, that one's out. So I sat at the art table, and they had some other activities, journaling and stuff. But I sat at the art table and was like, well, I'm not an artist, but maybe I can do something. And they had watercolors, so I did a watercolor painting, which did not take me the entire time, but it took me most of the time. And this was a reflection of where we were in the mountains, but also God shining a light down, which is part of my testimony. And then during that time, I saw God moving through everyone that was there. It was not just New Hope Community, it was also I think 3 other groups that were there. And I just saw the Holy Spirit through them, and Brad and I were just kind of hanging out there, just waiting, what's going to happen, how meaningful is this going to be for us? And then Katie came up to me and Brad and gave us a hug, and she was crying, and I started crying because I knew that God was moving through our family. And, that to me was the highlight, was having the Holy Spirit move through our family, and then for me to come home and realize that God does move through the silence, and there are times that we need to have silence in our life to be able to feel that. So thank you. And he's got to follow me.
Yeah, well, I'm in trouble. So I was at the baseball site with Caleb and 4 other people from the other place, from Michigan and Colorado and Georgia. So every day we would, well, the first 2 days we went down to the site with Sammy, the coach slash baseball ministry leader, and went down, and the kids were, of course, they're really into baseball in the Dominican, so they knew more about than I did, actually. They were 10 to 12 years old, I think. They're up to no older than 12. So we went down there, and then we had to run drills with them and everything, which was not easy. And then we played baseball and practiced baseball, and then we just got to know the kids, and they were like kids everywhere, even though there's always a couple of comedians in the crowd that were ribbing you and stuff, and they're calling us gringos. We all would look, all 6 of us would look, which one's he talking about? Anyway, so that we did, and we got to go with them on Wednesday to go play another scrimmage, another team about an hour away. So we actually got them to really play, and they were really good. And came back from there, and then we just did that. And then for me, it was mostly like devotional time in the morning, which I never did before. And like my wife said, lots of time to reflect on stuff, which I usually run around doing something else. So, and then in the afternoons, it was the same thing. Like she mentioned that lunch was long, and then when we got back from the site to where we were staying, it was also another usually a couple hours before dinner that you had time to whatever. So a lot of times I would reflect on stuff there also, and it was that was the most enlightening thing for me, was just having the time to and taking the time to do that, which I normally never did before. So that's about it.
So I was on the community health site, and I went to the town of Jarabacoa daily, and I was doing things like going into the public clinics, the private clinics, and I was also doing a lot of home visits. And so during home visits, the second you enter the houses, they're always so welcoming, like in a way that I've never like really seen here. And like they are running to get you chairs so you can sit down if there isn't enough, or like they miscounted. And I remember one day, like in the video when we were playing dominoes, that was at Rafa's house and Tito's house. And Rafa was running around to get chairs because Mark and the media team had showed up and they didn't have enough. And he was running like 5 houses down and like bringing back 2 with him. And he's not the youngest guy. And he's like sprinting around, and then next thing you know, he's gone again, and we have to leave soon. And he goes, no, you have to stay, you have to stay. And we're like, what, Rafa? And he's making us juice in the house because he didn't get us anything to drink while we were sitting outside. Even though it was shaded, it was like breezy, it wasn't too hot, but he still wanted us to feel like we were like welcomed. And they always give their best there, so they would never give you anything like water like we do here. It was always something like coffee, Coca-Cola, or like a homemade drink, like what Rafa was making. And then, so I know when you think like community health, you think that I was doing a lot more than I really was. I was kind of expecting that too, but I ended up just talking to a lot of people and like getting to know everybody, and just like we would go to the visit, we would drop off some supplies for home visits specifically, and then we would just like talk to them for like 3 hours. So if we had one home visit in the morning, that was the only one we went to, and we just hang out with them, get to know them, their family, what they do in the community, and just talk and chit chat, like whether it's about hobbies, favorite foods, what they do on weekends, like anything. Like they just love talking and getting to know each other, and it's kind of like the way that they share like that love, and like that base of community is so important, and like I valued it so much when I was there. And then the only really health thing that I feel like I did was take a BP every now and then, but I mean it was still a valuable thing, and like everyone loves to get it done, so even if it's not on the patient, everyone's always asking, can I go next, or like they're always enthusiastic when they see a BP cuff come in the home. And then, as my mom said earlier, the trip was supposed to happen, how many, like 5 years ago, and I think that God knew that it wasn't time yet for me to go, and I just want to thank God for letting it happen this year. And that's it.
Hi. So I was at the special education site. It was called Genesis, and it was actually a lot of fun. They had like their camp week, so I was basically just playing with the kids all day because they weren't in school, and they were getting ready to go on summer break. So that was a lot of fun. Some of the funny things that happen there, obviously it's very different over there. Like they're just way more like laid back than they are here, and just seeing them interact with like those kids and how we interact with kids here is just like so different. But it worked well, and it was a great system for them, and it was really interesting to see that. And the kids were also so funny. Again, like we had a lot of language barriers, so some of the kids would like refer to me as Americano, and I'd be like, okay, Scott, I knew that was me. And then he'd be like, I'd start pushing him on the swing, and then he'd be like, rapido, and then I learned that meant faster, because like rapid. So I'd always be pushing him on the swing, like little things like that. And some of the kids were already nonverbal, so it was cool to see like there was really no language barrier, because they were nonverbal, and like obviously I didn't really know a lot of Spanish. So like little things like that, and how much they just like really treasure just like spending time with you and getting your one-on-one attention. And it was nice because there was obviously other people at the site serving, so a lot of the kids got a lot of attention. And we learned a lot that the kids really just look forward to going to school because they have poor home lives. So that was really sad, obviously, to see and like hear about. But just to see this school being such a light in the kids' lives and just such an outlet for them was like so cool. And like they were just all so happy to be there and excited. Obviously it was camp week, so there was no school, so it was a little bit more like more fun, I guess. But yeah, it was really cool to see that. Also one day we took all the kids to the pool. There was like 27, I think, like special education kids. So it was definitely really interesting to see. I don't think we ever would have done that. Like, I don't think anybody would dream of that here in the US. But we took them to the pool and it actually went so well. I was really nervous. I know everybody on our site, like from America, was like so nervous to take these kids to the pool. But they ran it perfectly. There was like no incidents or anything. And it was a lot of fun. My biggest takeaway, I'd say, before I went on the trip, I was asking God just to reveal himself in a new way to me, from like going to a new country and stuff like that. And I think God really just revealed to me how active he is. I think it's really, at least for me, I get sometimes discouraged when you're praying for such big things in the world, like with big troubles. And like when I'm praying for those and it's just like, sometimes just like so discouraging, it's like, God, like why aren't you just fixing this, like that type of thing. But seeing you're going to the Dominican Republic, such a different world, and like God is so active, and like God is working through everybody there. He's working on the site that I was serving at. He's working at the very camp, from just meeting new people and being encouraged through their faith, just little things like that, seeing how active God is. And then you come home and you're like, well, God's working the same way here, just in different ways. And just really realizing how important it is just to let God work. And I realized a lot, like just even coming back, like really just focus on being led by the Holy Spirit. Like when you think you're gonna psych yourself out and you're not gonna do what you really think is best and what God is leading you to do. So just really just like let God work through you, and like that's what I learned the most, and it's been such a great takeaway. And yeah, that's like my biggest takeaway. And I just wanna thank everyone for supporting us in prayer and in any financial way. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ella, and I served on the volleyball site. So what we did is we helped our site leader, Mariella, who's the volleyball coach in the area, and we would run practices with her, and we would do devotionals, and formed a lot of different relationships with a bunch of different kids. So we had a bunch of different age groups, but the first group we had was girls who were about 5 to 10 years old, and at first it was very hard with them because of the language barrier. Almost none of them spoke English, but God showed us that you can communicate through anything like that's not words. We would play games with them and just like hit the volleyball around, and they would hug us, and it was just like you could see his love through them without words. Another group we had a group of teenage boys, and they were a lot of fun. They did a lot of like running drills and stuff like that. And they always thought it was really funny when we would try to speak Spanish because our Spanish was so bad. But they were a really big blessing. And then one of my favorite groups we had was the varsity and JV girls. So on one of the days on site, we had varsity practice, and only 6 girls were there. But it was a really big blessing because they all spoke English, and we got to know them on a really personal level. And I got to do a devotional to them in English, and it was really amazing to see them ask questions, and I could answer them and just see them directly hear about Jesus. So on this day, this really stood out to me. We had practice, and one of our girls, Dylan, broke her hair tie, and nobody had an extra one. So her dad, who was sitting at practice, took out his shoelace and tied up her hair with it. And it was just like one of the most beautiful acts of service I've ever seen. And that, and just the whole week in the Dominican Republic, showed me that it's so important to just do everything you can to serve like Jesus did. And he tells us that there's no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friend. And I just think that the most important thing I took was that we can all sacrifice things and give things up so that we can serve like Jesus. And I just pray that we can all continue to do that. So, thank you.
Hi. Hi, my name's Alona, and at the DR, I served in like the school with the little kids. So we saw the kids Tuesday, Thursday, and a little bit on Friday. And with the kids, we played with them in the pool, which was really fun. We did a Bible story with them, and we did a craft, and we just like played fun little games with them. And then when the kids weren't at the school and when they were at their house, we like painted a mural for them where like they ate lunch, and then we just like set up the pool, and we just helped around the school. And when we weren't at the site, we were at the base, and at the base we like played card games, and then we played volleyball, and it was really fun. And then those were like some of the things I really enjoyed. And then there was also like some hard things, like they spoke another language, the food was a little bit different, and then I got homesick a little bit at the beginning. And I'm just so grateful that I got to go on this trip. And then I realized that like we all need to be so grateful because like we have so much stuff. We have way more than our necessities, and some of the kids there don't even have their necessities. And I enjoyed serving like Jesus, and God is always watching over us, and he protected our group and everyone there. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Danielle, and I was at the education site with Mrs. Quimby and Alona. And it was kind of different from what I was expecting because we only had the kids 2 days out of the week for a few hours. And I was expecting it to be younger kids, but it ended up being like all ages. And we would do like a Bible lesson with them, and then we would play games and sing songs and then go swimming in the pool. And I would say my favorite part was probably swimming with them because that's when you really saw their personalities come out. And you saw like different ways to interact with them, which was really interesting. And I just thought it was cool because they were always like jumping on you and like wanting to talk to you and interact with you. And what I learned most was that you will have plans and expectations that you think are like is right, but God's plan is always going to be different and better. And going into it, I just like had expectations like we're going to serve, but God like really taught me that you're just going to sit back and build relationships instead. And that's what I learned. And I just had a good time meeting people and building relationships with them and just experiencing the new culture. And I just thank everyone for helping support us and praying for us.
All right, so this is my second time going to the DR. I'd gone back in 2015. I was in the baseball site. I went back to the baseball site. I'm not good at baseball, but I just like sports. So, but I tore my knee in college, like after I went to DR back in 2015, and I went back, and I didn't even think about it. So I actually tweaked my knee, like doing drills and stuff, which not good, but you know, we overcome and adapt. So, but yeah, I mean, I enjoy playing baseball with the kids. Watching them play baseball is a real joy because they're really, really talented at a very young age. And watching Dave Adams' kid, Joshua, play baseball is like amazing. Like you wouldn't believe it. But what I learned about this trip was how to serve more as a servant and less as a leader, to humble myself and to serve with an open heart and submission to those people there, and to bring it here in my workplace, my everyday life, to my family, cousins, friends. I left with a mullet and I came back with a haircut. So that was a pretty big change. Brad got like a few hairs trimmed, like nothing much, you know. But yeah, so I really enjoyed myself, and I'm willing to put to work whatever I learned there, here. God bless.